Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michelle Collins, and I would like to welcome you to another discussion from the Ministry of Education. Today, I have with me Dr. Rhoda Mohammed. She is from the Curriculum Planning and Development Division, and you are a curriculum officer with a focus on research.
Yes.
And so, our discussion today will focus on the S.T.E.P.S program. Can you tell us a little bit about the S.T.E.P.S program?
Okay, so firstly, S.T.E.P.S is an acronym. It's an acronym for students transitioning effectively from primary to secondary school. And this program is geared towards the post-SCA students, those students in Standard 5 who have sat the SCA exam last term and are now awaiting results.
So you mentioned transitioning. Can you explain it a little bit in terms of what is that process? And when you say transitioning, what is that about?
Okay, so transitioning is really managing or adjusting to change. All right, and in this event, the change is moving from the primary school to the secondary school. All right, and we all have a lot of transitioning things in our lives. So students would have already transitioned from early childhood to primary school. All right, and the early childhood centers would have done some processes to get them ready to transition into primary school. So now that the children are moving from primary into secondary, the primary schools are now being asked to implement this program, which would help to smooth that movement, help children to be able to cope with moving from the primary school to the secondary school. And you need to understand that this requires a lot of changes in a child's life. Think about how primary school is structured compared to how the secondary school is structured. All right, so when a child is in this process, they are there trying to understand, one, that this phase of their life is over. Primary school is over, and primary school is really, the children are nurtured with one teacher all the time. The teacher is like a surrogate for the parent, and now they are moving into secondary school. Secondary school is a daunting task because if the classrooms are larger, they are going to meet children they never met before. All right, remember they had a little social group and their own little ecosystem, and now they are moving into secondary school where it would be new children, new teachers. The compound is massive. If you're in a primary school and you go to a secondary school for the first time, the compound is really massive. All right, so it's a lot of changes. All right, and that's just the physical changes. If you think about it, they are also going through puberty at this time and going towards adolescence, and that comes with its own emotional, physical, and social changes. All right, and a child has to cope with all of these changes at the same time. All right, so the S.T.E.P.S program helps to try to build some of the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that would help them to be able to cope with all of these changes.
So we're getting ready, or we're giving them the coping skills that they need to move from this safe haven that's the primary school to something that's a whole lot bigger in terms of the secondary school. Can you share your fondest success story from a child who has participated in the S.T.E.P.S program?
Okay, so we normally interact with the students when we monitor the implementation of the program. So we visit some of the primary schools, we interact with the teachers and with the students in order to get an idea of how the program is running, what things we might need to change, things that we could add. So this year we added a lot of things based on the feedback we got from students and teachers. All right, so to me, the success we have with S.T.E.P.S is when we go into those schools and we see that the children are having fun while learning, right? Because it is a learning experience, learning is still happening. However, it's a little adjustment. It's not so much the teacher teaching as much as the students applying their learning. So, for instance, I went into one of the schools and one of the challenges they were doing would be making toppings for ice creams. Right? So they had to come up with their own toppings and use whatever resources they had. This school, one of the children, the group made dragon breath. That was the name of the topping, right? So of course, with an interesting name like that, you want to see what they made, right? So they use dragon fruit and 5 fingers.
Ooh.
Right? So it's a tangy taste to the sweet ice cream. All right, and they were very happy, especially the taste testing, of course, right? And giving their opinions about why they like certain flavors and how it fit in with the ice cream and what maybe they could have added to make it more interesting. The other group made the tropical kiss, right? It's a play on tropical and kiss. And they use coconut and pineapples and a lot of Caribbean fruits, right? So they are seeing how things in their own, the resources in their own community can be used and these things can become commercialized, right?
Definitely.
Right? So and they had to invent their own things. We went to other school, and one of the modules in the social studies component is doing tours, national tours, but they did it virtually, right? And when you speak to them about it, they didn't know a lot of the places existed in Trinidad. And now they have this love of country and they want to be able to go to all of those places and that kind of thing. So they're talking about where they would ask the parents to go to and that kind of thing. It helps to build a lot of the community spirit, to have love of country and, and the children are very excited. They're happy to speak to you when you come to tell you what they're learning and that kind of thing.
Nice.
So.
You spoke a lot about resources just now. Can you elaborate a bit on the resources or activities the S.T.E.P program offers to help our students in terms of feel more confident about that transition from primary to secondary?
Okay, so what we have is a toolkit. And in that toolkit, we have a lot of activities, lesson plans, presentations, movies, all those kinds of things that would help the teacher really to bring the experience to the children. All right, so for instance, one of the things that we focus on is building the foundational skills, the foundational knowledge, the knowledge that the students would need to build on when they get to secondary school. So in the 9 core subject areas in primary school, we have application of that knowledge and skills. It is a time where the teacher could review topics where the children may have gaps, or they could apply the skills to make sure that the children could use the skills outside of the test paper, right? To use it in the real world. And that helps to build the confidence of the child, because if I go into secondary school and I'm confident about the information and the knowledge that I have, then I feel a little better going in and knowing that I could build on that. All right, we always focus on the 21st century skills, because that of course is an essential thing to being able to move and to transition smoothly, right? Anywhere you go, not just into secondary school. All right, so we have STREAM and we have technology education, and we introduce information communication and technology. All right, so they build those technological skills, because a lot of children, even though they play on their tablets and they play on their phones, having the basic technology, computer skills would be efficient, right? So we build some of those skills through challenges. We try to encourage innovation, creativity, flexibility. They have to present and talk to persons, all right? All of those kinds of skills that you need to be able to go out and manage naturally, all right? This year we're trying to build in some of our life skills. So we are actually partnering with National Training Agency, and they have a video series called Learn a Skill with Me, and we will have that in the toolkit this year. And here the students will learn to do basic things to help with their independence: make a sandwich, stitch a button, those kinds of basic things that a normal person should be able to do. All right. We also look at looking at we living on an island, right? So some of our life skills have to do with being island, right? So we're looking at disaster preparedness, electrical energy conservation. So we have TNTech and ODPM on board with us this year, and they are resource persons that the schools can contact, and they will come in and do sessions with the students, so they have an idea of experts and persons other than the teacher. All right. We are this year introducing a secondary school tour. All right, because a major issue, a concern when you look at the research, a concern that children have with transitioning is how do they manage in a new environment. All right, and if you think about secondary school, here I am moving from class to class, which I didn't used to do before, and you had to study the time management and trying to do that movement. I have to use a timetable, be able to read it and use it efficiently. All right. So what we're hoping to get some secondary schools to partner with us in each district, and to have an open day where the standard 5 students can come into the school. They could liaise with student ambassadors from the school who would have transitioned smoothly into secondary school. So they could share some of their experiences, provide some little tips and strategies that they might have used to try to get that transition. All right, so we really have trying to add a lot.
And there's a whole approach that you're taking
Yes.
to this entire STEPS program, which I think is going to make that process even more meaningful for the children.
So we have all of those areas, and what we do is we create challenges, or the teachers can create challenges. So teachers have been creating their own challenges as well, where they use knowledge and skills from all of the different subject areas to do something, to invent something. Yeah.
Nice, great. And you mentioned the teachers a lot. How are teachers being involved in the STEPS process?
All right. So all the ministry provides is a toolkit and some sensitization, right? The teachers themselves, the standard 5 teachers, actually go into the toolkit, and based on their students' needs and interests, they would select modules that they will implement in their classroom. So the teachers actually go in and create the program, and it's a flexible program. It's a program the teachers design specifically with their students in mind, and the resources that the school have, and where they are in the community, and those kinds of things that would help them to be able to give the children the best opportunities.
And another important piece of this puzzle will be the parents. How do parents, or how can parents get involved to support their child through this program in terms of as we look at transitioning?
Right, so parents are very important, of course, because they are the first persons that the students would have at home. All right, so SEA is now over. It doesn't matter what the results are, because nothing can be changed at this point. All right, so what we're asking parents to be able to do now is to focus, to listen to what their children are saying, and to support them. All right, this is the time that we would want our parents to, one, listen to the children, find out their needs, their concerns. Everybody has needs and concerns, especially when they're moving into anything new. All right, and the parents need to be able to help the children to be able to make this transition. So you need to listen to your children. You need to help them by saying, okay, maybe my child requires a little more independence. I babying him, I doing everything home for him, but when he goes to secondary school, he requires some independence. So I now give him little chores, little things at home that would help him to stand on his own, to be able to make decisions on his own. All right, children will now be moving into a situation where before they would have simply gone to the class teacher and say, hey, that boy interfering with me, and that kind of thing. Now they need to be able to deal with the child respectfully in a type of way, and they also need to advocate for themselves. So they need to be able to speak to a teacher, to be able to go to the teacher and say, this is happening to me, to be able to make factual reports, not just to say what I feel and that kind of thing, but also to say what actually happened. All right, so the parents need to teach children how to do those kinds of things. All right, and we do have some tips for parents on the webpage, because there is a STEPS webpage, and on that webpage we have tips for parents. So we're asking parents to go there and look at some of the tips. The Student Support Services Division also does parenting sessions with the parents for the standard 5 students in the primary school. So they can also look out for those sessions. The information will come from the school.
Yes.
So that we could help the parents to help their children.
And you mentioned 21st century learners, and I'm taking a quote from our Honorable Minister, which says, our education system must champion the holistic development of 21st century skills, attitude, values, and behaviors. This requires a cultural transformation to mold our young people into that of the ideal Trinidad and Tobago citizen. And as I mentioned before, this comes from the Honorable Niam Gaspidoli, our Minister of Education, which speaks to the need for our students to be able to navigate the 21st century landscape. Can you elaborate on the flexibility of the STEP program in serving this purpose?
All right, so as I said before, the S.T.E.P.S program focuses on building, developing, and nurturing 21st century and life skills. All right, so all of our modules are focused around that. So we look at innovation, creativity, the use of technology, and our modules have those. This year we also, because of the cultural transformation policy, we are encouraging more field trips and participation in competition. So we have the IED competition, which is looking at agriculture and developing kitchen gardens at the school. So we have that competition as well, and it helps them to be able to compete fairly and to have that sportsmanship kind of thing. All right. We have all of those skills where they have to be able to do things for themselves, make decisions, come up and present. If they go on a field trip, which we are asking, and people can go to field trips, they field trips at specific places. You can go right into your community and do a field trip. Go to a farm, go to a grocery, go to little things that don't require as much money for traveling all over the place. All right. We are also encouraging service learning, which is part of our cultural transformation policy. So we are asking for you to do things in your community so that the children get an idea about helping others, sustaining the environment, doing all of those things that as citizens that we want to do.
Yes, and to help build the community as well. Because at the end of the day, we're leaving it for them.
Yes.
They need to be responsible for the community at the end of the day.
Yes.
Lovely. Are there specific strategies or best practices that teachers have found particularly effective in supporting students through the transition process?
All right, so I think listening and communicating with their children, the most effective teachers normally listen to their children and they kind of communicate with them to make sure that they're covering their concerns and their gaps, similar to what we're asking parents to do. All right, because at the end of the day, you want the children to enjoy the experience. All right, you want to also alleviate some of the concerns that they may have. So you want to address those concerns head on. All right, so it might be that they're concerned about cyberbullying, and we are also partnering with Restore Sense of ICANN, which is a technological club, and they are addressing things like cyberbullying and those kinds of things. All right, so the teachers need to really go through the toolkit, look at the needs of their students, and to choose the best modules that would be able to support their children. They could also encourage the children to make decisions about which modules they may want to participate in.
Yes. All part of that decision making that they're going to need when they go off to secondary school. Dr. Mohammed, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing with us about the S.T.E.P.S program. And join us again for another podcast. Viewers, be sure to visit the Ministry of Education's website at moe.gov.tt/STEPS 2024 for more details. Thank you.